Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Fireside Conversation on Chronicles of Executive Presence. Today, I have with me Munmun Desai, coming from the beautiful Pink City to the financial capital of India. And she has literally grown from a management trainee to the deputy managing director of the organization in a matter of only a decade. She has been awarded 40 under 40 as an investment professional and top 100 women in finance by an agency. In addition, she's also recognized as a top 10 women in finance, women leaders in finance. Today, she's leading a team of professionals and managing approximately $4 billion assets under management in advertising corporate treasuries for their investment. It is indeed a pleasure to welcome Munmun for this episode. Hi, Munmun.
Hi, Nandita. Pleasure to see you again.
Yes, it's really nice to have you on board again. So, Munmun, I'm going to jump straight to this conversation that we're supposed to have on executive presence. So, what, according to your experience in an organization and becoming a leader in nearly a decade, okay, what are some of the 3 to 4 characteristics that you think are imperative to be a good leader?
So, like you rightly said, it's like when you grow up in an organization. So, I have joined this organization as a management trainee. And as you mentioned, that in a decade's time, I have literally grown in the corporate ladder as a deputy managing director and, in your parlance, executive position in the company. A couple of things which I feel are very, very important is one of the key is networking. You should
Okay.
know how to network not only outside the organization but also inside, because that gives you a
Okay.
lot more learning. So you are prepared for
Mhm.
the next position because you are meeting the
Okay.
right set of people in the organization. You are trying to learn from them how they have grown in that
Mhm.
organization. Very, very fortunate to be part of an organization wherein it was a free culture, so that you can go and talk to the senior management at that point of time and learn from their traits. So I think networking, personally for me, is a very, very important trait. The second important thing is the communication. And a lot of time we spoke a lot about communication is, but communicating what you want from your life.
Okay. That's
एक
an interesting
एक
thought.
बहुत
Yeah.
बहुत फेमस सेइंग है कि जब तक मॉम भी अपने बच्चे को फीड नहीं करती until unless they he cries or she cries or asks for it.
True.
So you
Yeah.
need to communicate what you want, and
Beautiful.
that's where the communication is very, very important to be. If you want to grow in an organization, please make sure that you communicate what your goals are to the people who can then guide you to reach there. So communication is another key thing I feel is very, very important. So these are the couple of 2 traits which has helped me early on, sharing, discussing with my management that this is what I have vision for, this is the way we want to grow the business, this is the way I want to position myself, and they were very, very helpful in facilitating then the environment accordingly.
Wow. So ask and you shall get is the mantra that Munmun is talking about here. Very
Otherwise, the
interesting,
answer is no,
Munmun.
Nandita. Until unless you ask, the answer is always no. So there's no harm asking, right?
Beautiful. The worst that can happen is somebody's going to say no to you, but then at least
Yes.
you've made an effort. That's what is a nice one, Munmun, a very different perspective. Munmun, I want to, women in finance somewhere, uh, there is you know what I'm talking about, right?
Yes.
Traditionally it's more men. Yes, I do remember this, handling a lot of women who used to do CAs, but then when you look at it at the final year, the numbers drop down. And being a leader, as a woman leader in the finance industry, how difficult or easy it was for you to be more inclusive as a leader, and what did some of the things that you did to be more inclusive in your approach as a leader today?
I think it is changing a lot since the time that when I joined the workforce. But having said
Okay.
that, there are a couple of things which are unique to a women, and I think other than finance, this would be relevant to almost all the industry sectors that we talk about. The
Okay.
first and the foremost thing I believe, time and again, women need guidance. Women need
Okay.
somebody to show them the path where they are moving in. So there have been
Mhm.
instances, and I'm involved in mentoring a lot of young professionals, and time and again I keep giving, you need a direction.
Yeah.
For a women, it is very important that they have somebody who they can go and share what their goals are, what their problems are. They have different phases, whether you talk about motherhood, or they are getting married, or there are challenges which are unique to women. At every point of time, if they know that their organization is there to support them, if they need a break, or if they need flexible timing, if they know that the organization is supportive enough, you will always see the companies where the women force have grown are the companies where the culture supports those women. So it is, instead
Beautiful.
of unique to women, I think it is unique to the organizations.
Very nice. So, Munmun, I think we were having a chat sometime before on this topic. So, it's the leaders who typically set up the organization culture rather than an organization having a culture of its own. And what would be your views on that? Because I'd really like to understand that as much as we say it's an org culture, but who forms that org culture at the end of the day?
Very well said, Nandita. It's at the end, it's the team who makes those companies. It is the leader who define or determines the culture. I often speak to a lot of people and say that, okay, if you work late, then obviously your team will tend to work late. If
Very
you
true.
do something, eventually your team tends to follow, thinking that it is coming from the top. So as a leader, you have to decide what kind of precedent you want to set for your team, and the culture is determined by the people who are working in that organization. And obviously leaders, we have seen multiple instances when the entire company has taken a different turn because of the new CEO coming into the place.
Very
So
true. Yes.
it always boils down from top. If you want to get anything done, if you want to be successful, it is how the leader is communicating the vision to the team. And accordingly, the culture is set. Whether you talk about inclusion, whether you talk about aggressiveness of the organization, there are multiple characteristic traits which, instead of an individual, the rub off of an individual goes to the organization. And hence, these are the leaders who will determine the future growth of the company. In fact, during this Corona, Nandita, and we had discussed at that point of time also, there are a lot of companies where you can clearly see a demarcation. The
Mm-hmm.
companies who were much more empathetic towards their employees, and the companies wherein, you can really see the difference. And I work with lot many, almost majority of the listed companies and now startup space. I could see the employees loyalty has either increased substantially,
Mm-hmm.
or people have lost faith in the organization. And that was entirely because of the way top management handled that crisis. And that is where the executive presence plays a role, that what a leader is talking about, navigating the company in which direction.
So you got the word out yourself before me asking for it. So what exactly how would you define leadership presence? If I were to ask you, what are some of the components of executive presence? What would you say?
See, if I have to just break it down, leadership presence is not something very very complicated. It is my presence in the boardroom, and that is my
Okay.
personality, my characteristic traits. If
Okay.
I have to go and, if they I have to make a presentation and I'm in the boardroom, it is how I'm presenting, how I'm communicating my my ideas, the confidence that I bring into picture, that gives the confidence to the board, to the senior management for the growth of me in future. So it is your personality, which is, I think it can be learned also. It's not that everybody's aware of executive presence from the start on. It is how
Mm-hmm.
you want to be perceived.
Okay.
If you have a vision, if you have an idea, how well are you
Mm-hmm.
communicating, and whether are you communicating with the confidence, so that people are aligned to you. If I do not have that presence, or leadership presence, or executive presence in the boardroom, people will not align with the way, or with my vision, or they'll not come along with what I want to communicate. And same is true for my management. They will not see me for the next level of growth. So it is your personality, how you want to project yourself in the boardroom, or in any meetings, or any normal day-to-day work.
Okay, I'm going to ask you a question again related to leadership presence, but in a very different consulting kind of a context, which primarily you come from, wherein you advise other organizations to invest millions. And I'm sure it is not an easy task to have
Yes.
somebody listen to you. Uh, uh, age not at times not being on your side, because you expect gray hair people to advise us, and there are, I'm sure, a lot of other dynamics also which come into play. So what were some of the things that you were very careful of, or you are very aware of, when you are actually interacting with your stakeholders, to appear more or to be more convincing and to be able to tell them this, yes, you have it in you, so that they trust them with your money. Because I think that's one thing, most people don't trust each other with money.
So you said yourself, money is the most difficult trust, and until and unless you sitting on the other side
Munmun,
is, yeah.
yeah. Sorry, I think we lost you. Can you give that answer again? I think we completely
Yeah.
lost. There was an internet connectivity issue. Yeah, go ahead,
No,
please.
I was saying, Nandita, money is the most difficult trust people place on others. And like you rightly
Yes.
said, until and unless the other person sitting on the other side is convinced that you are able
Ha,
to manage and
ha,
handle and advise
ha.
better than him, he is not going to
Mm-hmm.
give his money to you. And to give that conviction, the most I think the first important thing is that, of course, you have to be very well aware, informed, and all of that. But the characteristic is that you are able to put that confidence that yes, I know.
Mm-hmm.
Second thing, I will the intent is always to advise you in your interest first. So giving that
Mm-hmm.
confidence to that person by communicating well is very, very important. You have to
Okay.
build your credibility time and again. You have to prove yourself, and obviously it comes with a time. Like you rightly said, people who have gray hair is not because they trust because of your hair, but because they believe that you have seen enough of cycles, enough of experience in managing money. And for the younger generation, if time and again they prove their credibility by giving a right advice, giving that confidence, putting that trust in them that yes, we are the right people, I think that's what make it a very, very successful work for not only me but for my entire team. That confidence, the communication, and the intent of working in the right direction.
Beautiful. So what I hear you say again and again is confidence and the communication part. I have a question for you, which is coming from the audience, which says, is executive presence only for the boardroom, or is it something that you require in an informal gathering also, social gathering? So can you
So
be two separate people, or how does it work according to you?
I see, it's the same personality. You cannot have an
Mm-hmm.
executive presence only in the boardroom. It is that you are walking every minute. You have to show that presence to everybody around, not only to
Mm-hmm.
your team, to your stakeholders, to your investors, to your clients, to your top management. It is your personality trait. So
Okay.
obviously it helps your personality trait then help you in moving up the corporate ladder. But whether you talk about networking, whether you talk about communication, whether you talk about credibility, confidence, all these things will be like you are walking and talking. It is not only that I'll change that persona when I'm in the boardroom. When I'm talking to my
Okay.
team, I have to have the similar characteristics so that they are aligned to the vision that we have. And also at the same time, it is very, very important. How successful companies are built. Successful companies are built with a team, and that's
Mm-hmm.
how you become leader. You are able to convey your vision, communicate it well, and then work together to achieve whatever the vision is.
Awesome. So you need to walk the talk, is what we hear Munmun say right now. You can't be two different personalities or personas across. So that was an insightful one. So Munmun, like you said, it can be developed. Okay. And it is not something that you may be aware of when you join an organization. Some of the things that you did uh, to say that, yes, I need to do A, B, C, D things to become more, have more executive presence.
Yes. So, like you said at the start, coming from beautiful pink city, Jaipur, to a corporate world, which is a financial capital of the country, what the
Yeah.
first thing that I did right, I guess, was listening to
Okay.
the people who have already achieved something in their life. You learned a
Okay.
lot when you listen. So
Awesome.
start from my career, I used to speak to a lot of people, a lot of stakeholders, management, outside people, and used to follow their journey, how they have achieved where they have achieved, what they have done right. And hence, I think one of the key thing that helped me is listening to the right set of people. And that also comes because you're networking. You are, for example, if I'm talking to you, you talk to 100 different leaders in the country. I will learn a lot by just talking to you. And similarly, if you can do a right networking, not only in the industry, outside industry, just listen to people. And I think there's a lot more characteristic that you can imbibe. Second thing is never stop learning.
Very nice.
Every time the dynamics have changed, not only for the work. I have grown, I have done my management in 2006, I have grown, but I have never stopped learning. I have done multiple courses of different universities. I read a lot. I read biographies, I read autobiographies, and then picking up things what thing can add value to me. I think that the listening and reading are the two things which has helped me in my growth, as I would say.
Wow. So if you can't interact with all the great leaders across the world, read about them is what Munmun is telling us right now, right? So Munmun, what are your 2 or 3, advice or something that you'd like to advise the youngsters or the young leaders of tomorrow? What do they need to do to become more powerful in their executive presence?
Nandita, you interact more with the leaders than I do, and 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 I think this question has to be the other way around. You should give advice to people what they should do than I. So I will pose this question back to you.
I like that. I like the way you turned it around, Munmun. Okay, yeah. See, if you ask me, I will still go back and ask you this question, Munmun, because you trust them, they trust me with their careers, they trust you with their money. I think both are
Yeah.
very different things. So I will answer that for you. So some of the things that I've personally seen is a lot of young leaders, they are more what I see them is more having a vision. They're more aggressive as compared to what I saw a generation back or even a decade back. But what is something that at times I see missing is they don't wait. They don't have that patience to wait for success. They somewhere believe success is overnight because of the stories that we read. We see our leaders being successful. We see them doing one project and becoming successful, wherein it's not that. They say that overnight success takes at least 22 years, which means that 22 years of experience of learning, unlearning is typically that lead to that one project being successful over a week or so. So that is something that I see a lot of young leaders uh, that they need to learn, that yes, their pace of learning and learning can be fast, like you said, by reading, interacting, networking, but they need to give them that time, themselves the time and space, and not say it doesn't work kind of thing. So that is something that I feel the leaders of today need to look at, or tomorrow. Now I pose a question back to you.
So, I was read somebody had shared this with me that what makes a successful CEO today. The successful CEO is somebody who. So it was in a book. It was mentioned anywhere between 48 to
Huh.
52 years of age. I think more than that, it is the drive that you have. Especially why you see people who are not number one are the one who become, or who are number two are one who are more successful, is because these people want to have didn't get chance to prove themselves, so they are driven to prove themselves. And hence, people who have drive to be successful are the one you'll always see learning, talking, communicating, interacting, networking, everything they will try and do because they think that they can do it, but they didn't get that opportunity. So they take up all the challenges, and hence the chances of number two becoming a successful CEO is much higher than a number one becoming a successful CEO.
Very interesting. Very different perspective. Okay, Mr. Amitabh Sin asking another question. Do you think the need to show executive presence by one can bring in conflict in a meeting than some healthy competition?
So it is, you have to make your presence felt. It's the first thing. I do a lot of these college sessions, and see, if you're addressing 100 different people, you may not remember everybody, but you'll always remember who has raised their hand. It could be, it may not necessarily result in a conflict, but you have to make your presence felt by asking right thing, by raising your hand, which will show that you are there. Be visible. I think that's one of the key element,
Very
to be
interesting.
visible. Otherwise you'll be behind the shadows. But the challenge or the downside to this is that if you raise conflict just because you want to make yourself visible, it may not work in your favor in future. So it has to be constructive to the meeting that you are having, rather than just for the sake of it you are conflicting.
Interesting. That's a very interesting perspective. So be visible for the right reasons is what I hear you say, Munmun,
Yes.
right? Add
Yes.
value in whatever you do. So Munmun, that brings us to an end of this fireside chat. But I do have a lot of questions which I want the audience also to know. How did you reach the pinnacle of a financial institution in a matter of a decade? So, what were some of the things that you did right? What were some of the strategies that you had? And a lot more in the panel discussion that will follow next the next to next Sunday, wherein we'll have Mr. Vikram Kota, Mr. Amit Sharma, and Munmun Desai talk it out on their journeys and what exactly were some of the challenges that they felt while they rose to their levels of success, and what do you need to do if you want to become a great leader for tomorrow. So next Sunday, being New Year, we want to give it a break. Post that on the 9th. Do join in at 5 p.m. to listen to a panel discussion on all three leaders and then know more about executive presence. Thank you, Munmun, for coming in today.
Thank you so much, Nandita. Wishing you all the success. Bye. Take care.
Thanks, and have a great year ahead. To all my listeners, have a happy new year and see you on the other side. Thank you.
Happy New Year. Bye.